Matt Jacobson.
Thank you. And thanks so much for coming. I think, and we say this a lot, but one of the most humbling things I can imagine is having people come out at night to come hear us talk, and I appreciate you taking the time to do it. So thank you for coming and having the event. This campaign for me has been remarkable for a number of reasons, but not the least of which are the people I've gotten to meet. I was over in Brewer a few weeks back, and I met a man with a World War II veteran's hat on. I asked him where he served, and he said he was an MP in the war, and that his last assignment, he guarded the prisoners at the Nuremberg trials. I met a man in Kennebunk who had served in Korea during the war, and I asked him where, and he said Chosin Reservoir. Of the 250 men in his company, only 5 came back that weren't killed or wounded. And it occurred to me, as I was driving away from both of those meetings, that in 25 or 30 years, our kids are going to look at us in the same way. Because we are going to accomplish great things. We are going to turn Maine into a place of opportunity, a place where our kids can stay and pursue their dreams, a place where hard work and personal responsibility pay off, a place where our parents don't have to flee high taxes. And I have a plan to take us there. We need to do 3 things. We need to focus on reducing the costs of those people that create opportunity. We need to make sure that our regulatory system is predictable and reasonable. And we need to make sure that our education system produces a world-class workforce. We focus on those things. We create opportunity. And we do what our responsibility to do, and that is to leave it better than we found it. I'm so happy you're here tonight, and I can't wait to hear your questions. Thanks.
Paul LePage.
Thank you. Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce, and thank you all for being out tonight. I think this evening is an evening where we try to differentiate each other as candidates. And I would like to say I'm the only candidate that's running this year for governor that actually leads a Maine government. As the mayor of Waterville, we have lowered our taxes 5 out of the last 6 years. In 5 consecutive years, we've built our fund balance from $1 million to $10 million. And last November, we were upgraded in our credit from Standard & Poor's from an A- to an A+. In addition to that, I'm also the only candidate for governor that is currently running a major Maine business. We have created jobs in the last decade. And at this point, Martin's, as its senior executive, we have 1,000 people working for us. In addition to that, I think I bring to the table a life story that is unusual in as much as I was homeless at 11 and had to work my way through high school, college, and was successful in my business career. And I hope that my background allows our kids to see that you can make it. In addition, like all the other candidates, I look forward to the questions tonight, answering our plans for the future of Maine, and also the fact that I have been elected and re-elected in one of the most democratic strongholds, the hometown of George Mitchell. Thank you.
Peter Mills.
Well, look, I too want to share in thanking you for turning out. It is a humbling experience, and it's particularly encouraging to see in this audience 2 of my personal heroes, Habib Dagher for all that he's done with economic and engineering development at the University of Maine, and Reverend Bob Carlson for the innovations in healthcare and delivery of health systems. These are 2 people that I look to for constant advice about how to scale up what they do and make it something of a more statewide phenomenon. You're going to hear some common themes tonight because we've been together on the trail and we hear the same, each of us hears the same thing over and over. You're going to hear a lot of promises about jobs, which is the major source of anxiety right now in America, let alone in Maine, about taxes and they're being too high and prohibiting the development of business, welfare, human services, debt, education issues, energy, health care, the burdens of regulation. You're going to hear very similar themes enunciated by most of us Republicans who are up here on the podium today. What I bring to this, however, is 16 years of having been on the front lines of fighting these very battles. I had a great deal to do with completely overhauling Maine's dreadful unemployment compensation system back in 1999. I have on numerous occasions stopped this governor, our present governor, from borrowing us practically into oblivion. I led the Don't Mortgage Me campaign against the $447 million he tried to borrow back in 2005, and we kept the state on more or less of an even keel with that campaign. I've designed a portable pension system for state employees and teachers that I would like to see implemented. And just last week, the governor signed my fund of funds bill to attract venture capital here. So in me, you know what you've got. You've got somebody with a track record, somebody who understands something about government as well as the private sector. And I think it's time to put a Republican into the Blaine House, and I'm putting myself forward for that posture. Thank you.
Les Otten.
Good evening, and I too want to thank you for coming. Maine's lost 32,000 jobs in the last 17 months. The top priority of my administration will be to create jobs in the private sector. I have 6 initiatives that I think are key to creating jobs in the state of Maine. The first is that we have to overhaul our tax system. Our taxes for capital gains and inheritance drive money out of the state of Maine and make it impossible to find the needed dollars to start businesses. We need welfare reform. The state of Maine cannot be looked at as a sanctuary state. We must turn welfare into workfare, and when people think of Maine from outside of Maine, they need to think of Maine as a state that they're going to come to work. We need to lower our insurance costs. A 30-year-old male in Maine pays $756 for exactly the same policy that 30-year-old male in New Hampshire pays $222. That's unacceptable, and that's one of the main reasons why jobs aren't coming to Maine. We need to cut spending and get regulatory reform in place in Maine. Maine is in the way. Maine needs to pave the way. And we ought to be energy independent. 80% of our energy comes from number 2 oil. No one believes that that's the fuel of the future. We need LNG. We need wind. We need solar. We need Canadian power. We need to do it before it's too late and before we're out of business. And finally, we need to educate our kids for the jobs of tomorrow. We need to take advantage of our fine university systems and high schools and make sure that our kids are getting the educations that they're going to need to stay here in Maine so that our kids are not our number 1 export. We need to reboot Augusta. The 6 things that I'm talking about don't cost me the need to put my hand in your wallet. These are things that we can do in Maine without taxing you. We need a state government that works for you, that's the right size for Maine, that's accountable, and that gets us back to creating jobs. That's my vision. That will be my leadership mantra. I look forward to working for you. Thank you.